Hi, these are the top 10 films of 2021. When I say top, I mean my personal favourite films. 2021, another terrible year. Not for cinema, I mean just in general. Cinema was in fact a great escape. It felt fantastic stepping back into the cinema, and the films didn't disappoint. On the whole.
Well, that happened.
This list is made up of films that, according to IMDb, are 2021 films. Some of these were made years earlier, but the pandemic delayed them, and some of them have only just been released this year. Of course, I haven't seen every film from 2021, and there were loads of films I really liked that I couldn't fit into my top 10, so if there's anything I've missed out, please do include your favourite films down below. For some people, the most notable absence will be Spider-Man: No Way Home. I'm not in any way saying that's a bad movie, it's just that 2021 was the year that I finally got comic book movie fatigue. After the natural climax of Avengers Endgame, they didn't have a little break. They just kept on bringing them out, and even started releasing TV shows that linked directly to the movies so that you had to see all of these TV shows. I started to feel like that guy who was fed too many spaghetti hoops in Seven. Too much of a good thing can make you explode. I haven't quite exploded, I just feel a bit bloated from all the Marvel. Anyway, let's get on with the list. In at number 10, The Tragedy of Macbeth, or as superstitious actors know it, The Scottish Movie. Joel goes it alone without Ethan, but have no fear, a solo Coen brother can still make a classic. Denzel Washington has tremendous presence in the lead, and Frances McDormand was born to play Lady Macbeth. The rest of the cast is fantastic, but there are two things that set this adaptation apart: the outstanding cinematography and the portrayal of the three witches. Catherine Hunter plays all three as one, and is terrifying. It's a riveting physical performance.
Thrice to thine, and thrice to mine, and thrice again to make up... 9.
In at number 9, Parallel Mothers. Almodovar's film about two mothers, what a surprise, is incredibly engrossing and moving. Penelope Cruz gives one of her best performances as a new mother. I don't want to say too much about what happens, but it's anything but a smooth ride for her. It's a beautiful looking film as you'd expect, and Cruz is joined by Melina Smith, who is also fantastic in the picture. The film has two stories going on, and one, while having an interesting subject, didn't quite grab my attention as much as the central premise, but that doesn't stop this from being a great film with one hell of a central performance at its heart. In at number 8, Red Rocket, a film with a great male central performance. Simon Rex is hypnotically detestable as a former porn star returning to Texas, a totally selfish, childish man out for himself. There are so many people in the real world that are like this. Charming enough on the outside, but without an ounce of generosity within them. Rex portrays it all so brilliantly. He's funny while being simultaneously ghastly. I only really knew Simon Rex from his work in the Scary Movie franchise, so he really blew me away here. Director Sean Baker continues his trend of making movies about people on the outskirts of society. He does this in a humorous but also very human way, making fully realised characters. Also, as usual with Baker, so much of this film seems to be filmed at dusk. The cinematography is gorgeous, making this small Texas town with its factories both stunning and kinda hellish. In at number 7, Compartment Number 6. There's a lot in this Finnish/Russian picture that I can relate to. Set on a train going between Moscow and Murmansk, we follow a Finnish student travelling alone off to see some petroglyphs her rather distant girlfriend recommended she should see. The journey is a nightmare. She feels abandoned, but worse than that, she's sharing a small compartment with a drunk miner. Not as in like a child, I mean like a guy who works in a mine. We are right in that compartment with her. It's incredibly frightening, but as the two begin to bond, it becomes pretty heartwarming. The reason I like it so much is that it reminds me of a journey I took about 10 years ago. It was a 4-day train journey from Moscow to Irkutsk in Siberia. It was a fucking nightmare. A guy in my cabin took against me. He repeatedly put a knife in my face and one night beat me up in the dining car. Unlike this film, however, we didn't fall in love. This film takes me back to that journey. Everything about the train looks the same, and it conveys that trapped feeling perfectly. There is also some great cinematography and 2 wonderful central performances. In at number 6, Boiling Point. Yet another film with a terrific central performance. Stephen Graham is his usual marvellous self, but here he is given real time to shine in this incredibly stressful film. We spend one night in a restaurant following the overworked staff. It was shot in one long continuous take, apparently with no cuts. They wanted to film the whole thing 8 times, but due to COVID, only shot it 4 times. Here we see the 3rd take, and it's quite remarkable. Often I find one-shot films to be gimmicky, with no substance or no real reason to do it in one take. But here it shows the claustrophobia and the never-ending pressures. The camera, the audience, and the characters never take a break. It's an uncomfortable watch as we watch the head chef, played by Graham, struggle with endless mishaps and setbacks. He is unbelievably well cast as a chef in over his head. The rest of the cast is also fantastic, and it is filled with details and human moments that really reach you. One thing for sure after seeing this movie is that it reminds me I must be very kind to waiters. It's such a hard job. In at number 5, Titane. Julia Ducournau follows her debut role with another astonishing body horror. It's a hard film to describe. Agatha Rousselle gives a mesmerising physical performance as a psychopathic woman who can't relate to people but certainly loves cars. Maybe a little too much. The first third is a bloody surreal slasher film, but then the film takes a surprisingly emotional turn. It's still surreal, it's still nasty, but it's now also touching as our protagonist meets Vincent Linden's steroid-addicted fireman. Their relationship is really rather moving. This is a totally unique film. It looks amazing, the makeup and effects are disgusting and remarkably well done, and Ducournau proves herself further as a must-see director. I can't wait to see what horrid surprises she has in store for us. In at number 4, Drive My Car. A very long but very involving film. Ryosuke Hamaguchi's film is 3 hours long. The opening credits don't appear until about 40 minutes in, but you're totally engaged with the picture due to its well-rounded, fully realised characters and their interactions with each other. Because the main story doesn't start until much later in the film, it feels odd to say too much about the plot. To keep it very simple, Hidetoshi Nishijima plays a stage actor and director putting on a production of Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima. He loves his car, and while driving, he listens to tapes recorded by his wife of her reading the play. It's his way to memorise his lines and get the pace of the play. The producers of the production won't let him drive his own car though, and so a driver is arranged. This is a film about people, relationships, heartbreak, depression, anger, and how we relate to each other. It's an incredibly touching film, and it's smart enough to know that it doesn't require tears, screaming, or shouting to get us to care deeply. We understand these characters and we relate to them. It's a beautiful movie with a great cast. God, it was a good year for acting. In at number 3, Summer of Soul. There's nothing quite like a good concert movie. This documentary from Questlove is about the Harlem Cultural Festival that took place in 1969. The music is terrific, featuring Nina Simone, the Staple Sisters, Gladys Knight and the Pips, and Stevie Wonder, to name but a few. What's insane is that this festival has been largely forgotten. It's a great festival in of itself, but what's so marvellous about the documentary is that it's about so much more than just the music. It's about Harlem, about black culture, and about how something this culturally rich can be forgotten, while Woodstock, the same year, is known by all. My favourite part of the movie is when people are interviewed about the moon landing the same day that happened. It's got such great footage, and it's edited with passion and humour. 1969 was an astonishing year for music. There was this, Woodstock, and the doomed Altamont Free Concert, which was covered in the film Gimme Shelter. So now, with Summer of Soul, we have this remarkable trilogy showing the music, the history and the feeling of the year 1969. In at number 2, Judas and the Black Messiah. Speaking of 1969, this is a film set around that period, and much like all the other films on the list, has some astonishing central performances. Based on the true story of Black Panther Fred Hampton and a former car thief, William O'Neill, working undercover for the FBI, this is both an astonishing drama and history lesson for those who, like me, are a little ignorant on the subject of the Black Panthers. Lakeith Stanfield plays the car thief, helping the FBI. He does the astonishing job of getting us to care about him, even though he's backstabbing someone he admires. And it's also impressive because we're not actually told a great deal about the character. It's through Stanfield's looks of fear, uncertainty, and even love for the people he's betraying that make us care for him. He's brilliant in it. And as the charismatic Hampton is Daniel Kaluuya, giving an equally great performance. He plays Hampton as a complex man. A man comfortable in front of huge crowds, but shy in front of a woman he likes. A man with rightful anger at the society letting him and his people down, and a man with a charitable nature wanting to help his community. He's brilliant in it. Also great is Jesse Plemons as the FBI agent in charge of the case. I love Plemons, and he's always captivating. Director Shaka King does a top-notch job of creating the period and telling a thrilling and upsetting story, keeping this difficult real event complicated and messy, showing the injustice and crimes committed, but not just showing it as a simple good versus evil story. It's tremendously well made. And in at number 1, The Worst Person in the World. I keep seeing this being described as a romantic comedy. I certainly don't think it's that. Yes, there's romance and observational funny moments, but it's really a portrait of a person, someone incapable of committing to anything, someone who moves from interest to interest, job to job, and person to person without ever really settling down. Renate Reinsve gives a pitch-perfect performance as Julie. We follow her for about 10 years of her life as the film is told in 12 riveting chapters. Each chapter is unique, and the film is realistic while also having occasional artistic flourishes that enrich the cinematic experience. It's a tragic and heartwarming depiction of a person in their late 20s who has no idea what they are doing. Each chapter tells us more about Julie, but it's also a film with many fully formed, complex characters. Joachim Trier's direction is faultless. We get to know Julie in and out, but she is a character that can still take you by surprise. Julie is a person full of life, and like us, is incredibly flawed. The film deals with what it means to be alive and the struggles that come with that. It's about loss, love, and death. About trying to find out where you belong. It's a similar film to Frances Ha or 1978's Girlfriends. It's not about a confident person finding themselves, it's about a deeply uncertain person failing to. As we get older, we may look more confident, but so much of life remains a mystery. It's a beautiful film and one of the best character studies in recent years. The Worst Person in the World is the best film I've seen so far this awful decade. Thinking about it fills me with emotion, and it shows just the power that cinema can have. Right, so counting down the top 10. In at number 10, The Scottish Movie. In at number 9, Parallel Mothers. In at number 8, Red Rocket. In at number 7, Compartment Number 6. In at number 6, Boiling Point. In at number 5, Titan. In at number 4, Drive My Car. In at number 3, Summer of Soul. In at number 2, Judas and the Black Messiah. And in at number 1, The Worst Person in the World. I think it was a great year for film, and there's so many films I've missed out, so please do include your favourite films of 2021 below. Anyway, cheers, bye.